Have you ever lost everything in a single moment? Not just your home, not just your money, but your identity, your future, everything you thought was real. This is what happened to her on a Tuesday afternoon in October. And what happened next, nobody could have predicted. Type, "I've been there" in the comment section if you've ever felt completely alone. She stood in the driveway, holding a single black garbage bag. That's all they gave her. 23 years of marriage. Reduced to trash. Her name was Grace. 52 years old. And for the first time in her adult life, she had nowhere to go. Her husband David stood in the doorway of their house. Except it wasn't their house anymore. It was his house. His lawyer had made sure of that. "You have 30 minutes, David said. His voice was cold, like she was a stranger. "Security is coming." Grace looked at him, really looked at him. At this man she'd built a life with, raised 2 children with, sacrificed her career for. "Where are the kids?" she whispered. David's jaw tightened. "They don't want to see you." That's when Grace understood. He'd turned them against her. Her own children. 21 and 19. Old enough to make their own choices, but young enough to believe their father's lies. The lies about the money. The lies about another man. Lies so convincing that even the judge believed them. Grace had worked as a secretary when she met David.
He was a law student. Charming.
Ambitious. He promised her the world if she'd help him build his career.
So she did.
She quit her job, raised their children, hosted his business dinners, smiled for every photo, became invisible so he could shine. And now she had a garbage bag and $17 in her purse. "You did this to yourself," David said. Then he closed the door. Grace stood there as the October wind cut through her thin sweater. The sweater she'd owned for 8 years because David said they needed to save money. While he bought a new Mercedes every 2 years. She started walking. She didn't know where. Just away. The first night is always the hardest. Grace tried calling old friends. Numbers that were disconnected. Women who'd stopped calling years ago because David said they were bad influences. She'd let him isolate her. Slowly. Quietly. Until she had no one. She spent that first night at a bus station. Security kicked her out at 2 a.m. The second night, she found a church parking lot. Slept in her car. Except she didn't have a car anymore. David had taken that too. By the third night, she found an overpass. A cardboard box. The smell of urine and desperation. This is where people become invisible, she thought. This is where you disappear. She watched the cars drive past. All those people going home. To warm beds. To families. To lives that made sense. And she wondered, how do you come back from this? The cold October air turned bitter at night. Grace wrapped herself in newspaper. An old trick she learned from a woman named Phyllis who'd been on the streets for 6 years. "You got kids?" Phyllis had asked. "Yes," Grace whispered. "They know you're out here?" Grace didn't answer. Phyllis nodded slowly. "The hardest part ain't the cold, honey. It's knowing the people who should love you chose not to." Grace closed her eyes. Tried not to cry. She'd cried so much the first 2 nights that now her tears felt empty. On the 7th night, 3 men approached her spot under the overpass. "Hey there, sweetheart," one of them said. His voice made Grace's skin crawl. She stood up, grabbed her garbage bag. "Where are you going?" Another one laughed. "We just want to talk." Grace ran. She didn't know where she was running, just that she needed to get away. Her legs burned. Her lungs screamed. She was 52 years old, and she hadn't run in decades. Behind her, she heard their laughter, their footsteps. She turned down an alley. Dead end. They were getting closer. Grace pressed herself against a brick wall. Her heart hammered so hard, she thought it would burst through her chest. This is it, she thought. This is how it ends. Then she saw it. A door. Slightly open. A warm glow of light spilling out. She didn't think. She just moved. Grace pushed through the door and slammed it shut behind her. The room smelled like sawdust and coffee. Grace stood there, breathing hard, her back against the door, waiting for the men to break through, to find her. But they didn't come. Instead, she heard a voice. "You're bleeding." Grace looked up. A man stood across the room.
Tall.
Maybe 6'2". Dark hair going silver at the temples. Deep lines around his eyes. The kind of lines that come from seeing too much. He was holding a piece of wood, a carving knife in his other hand. Grace looked down at her hands. She hadn't even noticed. Blood dripped from a cut on her palm where she'd scraped against the brick wall. I'm sorry, she stammered. "I didn't mean to. There were men. I just—" "Sit down," the man said. Not unkindly, just firm. Grace didn't move. "I'm not going to hurt you," he added. His voice was rough, like gravel. But something in his eyes, something told her he was telling the truth. She sat on a wooden stool near the door, still ready to run if she needed to. The man walked to a cabinet, pulled out a first aid kit. He approached slowly, like she was a wounded animal, which Grace supposed she was. "Give me your hand," he said. Grace hesitated. "Lady, if I wanted to hurt you, I'd have done it already." "Fair point." She held out her hand. He cleaned the wound. His touch was surprisingly gentle, careful, like he'd done this before. "What's your name?" he asked. "Grace." He nodded, didn't offer his own name, just kept working on her hand. "Thank you," Grace whispered. He wrapped the cut with gauze, secured it with tape. "Those men," he said. "They bother you before?" "No. I don't know them. You're new to the streets." It wasn't a question. Grace looked at him, really looked at him. He was probably late 50s. Strong build, weathered skin, hands that were scarred and calloused. "How can you tell?" she asked. "You still have hope in your eyes." He said it so quietly, she almost didn't hear him. That goes away after about 2 months. Like the video if you can feel something big is about to happen. The man stood up, walked back to his workbench. Grace watched him. This stranger who'd helped her without asking for anything in return. "You live here?" she asked. "Workshop's out back. House is through there." He gestured to another door. "I do woodwork. Furniture. Cabinets. Whatever people need." "That's beautiful," Grace said, looking at the piece he'd been carving. It was a bird, mid-flight, so detailed she could see every feather. "It's for a customer," he said. She lost her daughter last year. This was her favorite bird, a cardinal. Something in his voice made Grace's chest tighten. "I'm sorry," she said. He didn't respond, just kept carving. Grace stood up. "I should go. Thank you for everything." "Where are you going?" Grace opened her mouth, closed it. Where was she going? "Back to your spot?" the man asked. "Under the overpass?" Grace's eyes widened. "How did you?" "I've been there," he said simply. "Long time ago, but I've been there." They stood in silence. The man set down his carving knife, turned to face her. "I have a room," he said. "Upstairs. Haven't used it in years. It's dusty. Probably needs a good cleaning. But it has a bed. A door that locks. From the inside." Grace stared at him. I can't pay you," she stammered. "Didn't ask you to. But why would you?" "Because someone did it for me once," he interrupted. "When I had nothing. And I swore if I ever got the chance, I'd do the same." Grace felt tears burning her eyes. Real tears this time. Not the empty ones from the last 7 nights. "I don't even know your name," she whispered. The man was quiet for a long moment. "Marcus," he finally said. "My name is Marcus." And that's how Grace ended up in a stranger's house. A stranger with shadows in his eyes. A stranger who carved birds for grieving mothers. A stranger who understood what it meant to lose everything. The room was small. A single bed, a dresser, a window that looked out onto a garden that had seen better days. But it was clean. And warm. And safe. Grace sat on the edge of the bed. She still had her garbage bag. Still wearing the same clothes she'd worn for 7 days. There was a knock on the door. "It's unlocked," Grace said. Marcus opened the door halfway. Didn't come in. Just stood in the hallway. Bathrooms across the hall, he said. Towels are in the cabinet. There's women's clothes in the dresser. They might fit you. Grace's breath caught. Who? My wife, Marcus said. His voice was flat. Empty. She died 4 years ago. Cancer. I'm so sorry. Marcus nodded. Dinner's in an hour.
If you want to join me.
If not, I'll leave a plate outside your door. He started to close the door. Marcus.
He stopped.
Thank you, Grace said. I don't know why you're doing this, but thank you. Marcus looked at her, and for just a second, Grace saw something crack in his armor. Something vulnerable. Get some rest, he said. Then he closed the door. Grace sat there for a long time. Then she opened the dresser. The clothes were neatly folded. A soft blue sweater. Jeans. Even socks. She held the sweater to her face. It smelled like lavender detergent.
Clean.
Normal. Grace hadn't felt normal in 7 days. She went to the bathroom, turned on the shower, let the water run until it was hot. Steam filled the small space. Then she stepped under the spray, and she broke down. 7 days of terror, of hunger, of wondering if she'd ever feel human again. It all came pouring out. Grace cried until the water ran cold, until there was nothing left. Then she dried off, put on the clean clothes, looked at herself in the mirror. She looked different, older, thinner, haunted, but alive, still alive. Type she's going to be okay if you believe in second chances. Dinner that first night was quiet. Marcus made soup. Simple chicken soup with vegetables. But to Grace, it tasted like heaven. They ate in silence. Marcus at one end of the table, Grace at the other. This is delicious, Grace finally said. Marcus grunted. It's just soup. It's more than soup to me. He looked up at her. Something in his eyes softened. Just a little. After dinner, Grace insisted on doing the dishes. Marcus tried to argue, but she was firm. You gave me a room, she said. The least I can do is clean a few plates. Marcus nodded, went back to his workshop. Grace stood at the sink, washing dishes in the warm, soapy water. And she realized something. She couldn't remember the last time David had made her dinner, or thanked her for anything. In 23 years of marriage, he'd never once done the dishes. The days fell into a rhythm. Marcus would wake early. Grace would hear him in the workshop by 6 a.m.
The sound of sawing, sanding, carving.
She'd come downstairs around 7. Make coffee. Marcus never asked her to, but she noticed he always drank the whole pot. They'd have breakfast, usually in silence. But it was a comfortable silence. Not the heavy, angry silence she'd lived with for years. After breakfast, Marcus would go back to his workshop. Grace would clean, at first because she felt like she owed him, but then because she wanted to. The house had been neglected. Not dirty, exactly. Just forgotten. Grace washed windows, swept floors, organized cabinets. She found photos in a drawer. Marcus and a woman, both of them younger, smiling. His wife had been beautiful, dark hair, kind eyes. In every photo, Marcus was looking at her like she was the only person in the world. Grace put the photos back carefully. She understood now why he never went into that upstairs room. Why his wife's clothes were still in the dresser. He hadn't been able to let go. It was on the 9th day that Marcus asked her a question. They were sitting on the back porch. Evening. The sun setting behind the trees. Marcus was drinking coffee. Grace was drinking tea. You don't talk about your family, Marcus said. Grace tensed.
No.
You don't have to, he added quickly. Just notice. Grace was quiet for a long time. Then she spoke. I have 2 kids. Daughter and a son. 21 and 19. They know where you are?
No.
Marcus nodded. Didn't push. My husband, Grace continued, her voice shaking slightly. He was very good at making people believe things.
About me.
Things that weren't true. What kind of things? That I was stealing from him. That I was having an affair. that I was unstable. Grace's hands trembled around her teacup. And people believed him? Marcus asked. Everyone believed him. Grace's voice broke. Even my own children. Marcus was silent. Then he said something Grace would never forget. The hardest betrayals are the ones that come from the people who are supposed to protect you. Grace looked at him. That sounds like experience talking. Marcus stared out at the darkening sky. My father, he said quietly. He was a cop. Everyone respected him, thought he was a hero. But behind closed doors, he was a monster. The word hung in the air between them. I'm sorry, Grace whispered. My mother stayed, Marcus continued, for 30 years. Made excuses. Covered bruises. Told me and my sister that we were lying when we tried to tell people. What happened?
He died.
Heart attack. 58 years old. And your mother? She died 6 months later. Couldn't live with the guilt of what she'd let happen. Grace reached across the small table, put her hand on Marcus's arm. Just for a second. You survived, she said. Marcus looked at her hand, then at her face. So did you, he said. 2 weeks in, Grace started helping in the workshop. At first, just small things. Organizing tools. Sweeping sawdust. Handing Marcus sandpaper when he needed it. But then he started teaching her how to sand with the grain, how to tell good wood from bad, how to read the pattern in oak and maple and cherry. You're good at this, Marcus said one afternoon. Grace was sanding a table leg. Smooth, even strokes. I used to paint, Grace said. A long time ago. Before your husband? Grace nodded. He said it was a waste of time. That I needed to focus on real responsibilities. That's bullshit, Marcus said flatly. Grace laughed. Actually laughed. For the first time in she couldn't remember how long. Marcus stared at her. What? Grace asked. You should do that more. Do what? Laugh. His voice was soft. It's nice. Grace felt heat rise in her cheeks. She looked down at the table leg.
Kept sanding.
But she was smiling. That night, Grace couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Marcus. About the way he'd looked at her when she laughed.
It wasn't romantic.
Not exactly. It was something else. Recognition. Like he saw her. Really saw her. Not the broken woman who'd stumbled through his door. But the person she used to be. Could be again. Grace got up, walked to the window, looked out at the garden below. In the moonlight, she could see Marcus, standing among the overgrown plants. Just standing there. She watched him for a long time. And she wondered, what is he running from? What are we both running from? 3 weeks in, Grace's daughter called. Grace was in the kitchen when her phone rang. A phone she'd kept on silent. A phone she'd been too afraid to look at. But the name on the screen, Sarah. Her daughter. Grace's hand shook as she answered. Mom. Grace closed her eyes.
Sarah.
Baby, I'm so. Where are you? The question was cold. Clinical. I'm somewhere safe. Grace said carefully. Dad's looking for you. Why? He says you stole money from him. $20,000. Grace's blood ran cold. What? It's missing from his account. He says you took it before you left. Mom, did you?
No.
Grace's voice was firm. Sarah, I didn't take anything. You have to believe me. Then why would Dad say that? Because he's lying. Silence on the other end. Sarah, please. You know me. I would never. I don't know what I know anymore, Sarah said. Her voice cracked. You just disappeared. We thought you were dead. And then Dad found out you've been living on the streets? Mom, what is happening? He threw me out, Grace said. He took everything. The house. The money. He turned you kids against me. That's not true. Isn't it? Grace felt tears burning. When was the last time you talked to me? Really talked to me? Before all of this. Sarah was quiet. He's been pushing me out for years, Grace continued. Little by little. Making me smaller. Making me invisible. And you and your brother, you let him. That's not fair. No, Grace agreed. It's not. None of this is fair. Where are you, Mom? Grace hesitated. Why? Because Dad filed a police report. About the money. They're looking for you. The world tilted. He did what? Mom, if you didn't take the money, you need to come home. You need to explain. I'm not coming back there, Grace said. Her voice was steel. I'm never going back there. Then they'll find you.
Mom, please.
Just come home. We can figure this out. Grace hung up. Her hands were shaking so badly she dropped the phone. It clattered on the kitchen floor. Marcus appeared in the doorway. What's wrong? Grace looked at him, and she saw it in his eyes. He already knew. Somehow he knew. They're coming for me, she whispered. Marcus made Grace sit down.
He poured her tea.
But Grace couldn't drink it. Couldn't do anything but stare at her hands. Tell me, Marcus said. So Grace told him. About the call. About the money.
About the police.
I didn't take anything, she said. You have to believe me. I believe you. Grace looked up at him. Why? Because I know what it looks like when someone's telling the truth. Marcus sat down across from her. And for the first time since she'd met him, he looked scared. Grace, he said slowly. There's something I need to tell you. Her stomach dropped. I haven't been completely honest with you, Marcus continued. About who I am. About why I live the way I do. What do you mean? Marcus took a breath. Let it out slowly. 15 years ago, I killed a man. The words hung in the air like smoke. Grace didn't move. Didn't breathe. It was self-defense, Marcus said quickly. Legally. He broke into my house. He had a gun. He was going to kill me and my wife. But the man I killed, he was a senator's son. Grace's eyes widened. Rich family. Connected family. They didn't care about the truth. They wanted blood. Justice for their boy. Marcus's hands clenched on the table. I was charged with murder. The trial was a circus. My lawyer was garbage. The evidence was manipulated. I spent 3 years in prison before the conviction was overturned. Turns out the prosecutor had hidden evidence that proved it was self-defense. My God, Grace whispered. By the time I got out, my wife was sick. Cancer. I lost my business. My reputation. Everything. The only reason I have this house is because my wife's father died and left it to us. Marcus looked at Grace. Really looked at her. So when I tell you I know what it's like to be destroyed by someone with power, he said, I mean it. I've lived it. Grace didn't know what to say. This man, this kind, broken man who'd given her shelter, who'd taught her to sand wood and made her laugh for the first time in months. He'd killed someone, but he'd also survived. Why are you telling me this? Grace asked. Because if the police come looking for you, they'll find me. And when they run my name, they'll see my record. They'll assume I'm hiding you, helping a fugitive. I'm not a fugitive. Your husband is making you one. Marcus leaned forward. Grace, men like him, they don't stop. He'll use the system to destroy you, just like that senator's family tried to destroy me. So, what do I do? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. We fight back, he finally said. How? I know people. People who can help. People who know how to find the truth when it's buried. Grace shook her head. I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Why? Grace's voice broke. Why would you risk everything for me? You barely know me. Marcus reached across the table, took her hand. It was the first time he'd really touched her. His hand was warm, calloused, strong. Because you're the first person in 4 years who's made this house feel like a home, he said quietly. And because I'm tired of watching good people get destroyed by bad ones. Grace looked at their hands, then at his face. Okay, she whispered. Tell me what we need to do. The next day, Marcus took Grace to meet someone. They drove for 40 minutes to a small office building on the edge of town. The kind of place you drive past without noticing. Who is this person? Grace asked. Her name is Diana, Marcus said. She's a private investigator. Specializes in financial crimes. How do you know her? She helped me during my trial. Found evidence the prosecutors tried to hide. Marcus parked the car. She's expensive, but she's good. Marcus, I can't pay. Already taken care of. Grace stared at him. You can't. Already done. Diana's office was small but organized. Wall of file cabinets. Computer screens. Photos and notes pinned to a corkboard. Diana herself was late 50s. Short silver hair. Sharp eyes. She reminded Grace of a hawk. So you're the one Marcus called me about, Diana said, shaking Grace's hand. Sit down. Tell me everything. Grace did. She told Diana about David, about the divorce, about being thrown out with nothing, about the missing money. Diana took notes, asked questions, pointed questions that made Grace uncomfortable, but that needed to be asked. Your husband's a lawyer? Diana asked.
Yes.
Real estate law. So, he knows how to hide money. Grace nodded. And he's accusing you of theft? $20,000. Yes. Diana leaned back in her chair, tapped her pen against her lips. Classic move, she finally said. Accuse you first. Make you defend. Put you on the run. Meanwhile, he's the victim. Can you help her? Marcus asked. Diana looked at Grace. Then at Marcus. Then back at Grace. I can try, she said. But I need access to your financial records. Bank statements. Credit cards. Everything from the last 5 years. I don't have any of that, Grace said. He took everything. He took your copies, Diana corrected. But the bank still has records. We just need to subpoena them.
How?
Diana smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was a shark smile. Leave that to me. 3 days later, Diana called. I found something, she said. Grace and Marcus drove back to her office. Diana had papers spread across her desk. Bank statements. Transaction reports. Highlighted sections. Your husband is a very careful man, Diana said. But he made a mistake. What mistake? Grace asked. He got greedy. Diana pulled out a statement. Pointed to a series of transactions. These are wire transfers, she explained. From your joint account to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. $50,000. Transferred over 6 months. Small amounts. $5,000 here. $8,000 there. Nothing that would trigger automatic flags. Grace's mouth fell open. I didn't authorize any of those. I know. Because I got the authorization signatures from the bank. Diana pulled out another document. This is your signature on file. She showed Grace. That's not my signature, Grace said. Exactly. Diana's eyes gleamed. Your husband forged it. Multiple times. He's been draining your joint account for months. But why? Marcus asked. If he was already getting everything in the divorce. Because there's more, Diana interrupted. She pulled out another stack of papers. I did some digging. Your husband has 3 LLCs registered in Delaware. Shell companies. All created in the last 2 years. What does that mean? Grace asked. It means he's been moving money around, hiding assets. Probably from the IRS. Definitely from you. Grace felt like she couldn't breathe. The $20,000 he claims you stole? Diana continued. That's money he transferred himself to one of his shell companies. He's setting you up. If the police investigate, they'll find the transfer. And your name is still on the joint account. It'll look like you took it. But I didn't, Grace whispered. I know. And I can prove it. Diana tapped the papers. But there's something else. Something bigger. What? Diana hesitated. Looked at Marcus. Then at Grace. Your husband has a second family. The words hit Grace like a punch to the gut. What? A woman in Vermont. 2 kids. 8 and 6. He bought them a house. Pays their bills. Flies up there twice a month. Grace couldn't speak.
Couldn't think.
I'm sorry, Diana said softly. But you needed to know. Grace walked out of Diana's office in a daze. Marcus followed her.
Didn't say anything.
Just stayed close. Grace got to the car, leaned against it, and then she started laughing. Not happy laughter, hysterical laughter. The kind that comes when your brain can't process anymore. A second family, she gasped between laughs. A second family. Grace. 23 years, she said. 23 years I gave him. And he had a whole other life. Another woman. Other children. The laughter turned to sobs. Marcus pulled her into his arms. And Grace collapsed against him. Broke down completely.
I was so stupid, she cried.
So blind. You weren't stupid, Marcus said firmly. You trusted him. That's not stupid. That's human. I lost everything for him. Everything.
No.
Marcus pulled back, held her face in his hands. You didn't lose everything. You survived. You're still here. Still fighting. Grace looked at him through her tears. Why are you doing this? She whispered. Why do you care? Marcus's expression softened. And for the first time, Grace saw something in his eyes. Something that made her breath catch. Because you remind me of her, he said quietly. My wife. The way she fought. The way she refused to give up even when the cancer was killing her. He brushed a tear from Grace's cheek. And, because somewhere along the way, he continued, you stopped being a stranger I was helping. And you became someone important. Grace's heart hammered in her chest. Marcus. We're going to destroy him, Marcus said. His voice was steel. Your husband. We're going to take everything from him. The way he tried to take everything from you.
How?
Diana found the evidence. Now we just need to use it. Marcus opened the car door for her. But first, he said, we need to make sure you're safe. Because when David finds out what we know, he's going to come for you. They got home just before dark. Marcus was quiet on the drive back. Too quiet. What are you thinking? Grace asked. I'm thinking your husband is dangerous. He's a lawyer. Not a. He's a man with everything to lose, Marcus interrupted. Diana found evidence of fraud. Bigamy. If this goes public, he loses his law license. His reputation. Both families. Everything. Good. Grace. Marcus pulled into the driveway. Turned to face her. Men like him don't go down quietly. They fight. And they fight dirty. What are you saying? I'm saying we need to be careful. We need to be smart. And we need to be ready for him to retaliate. That night, Grace couldn't sleep. Again. She got up. Went downstairs. Found Marcus in the workshop. He was working on something new. A jewelry box. Intricate patterns carved into the lid. Can't sleep? He asked without looking up.
No.
Grace sat on a stool. Marcus, can I ask you something? Sure. Your wife. What was her name? Marcus's hand stilled. For a moment, Grace thought he wouldn't answer. Claire, he finally said. Her name was Claire. Tell me about her. Marcus set down his carving knife. Looked at Grace. Why? Because you loved her. And I want to know about the person who made you you. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then he started talking. She was a teacher, he said. 3rd grade. The kids loved her. She had this way of making everyone feel special. Like they mattered. Grace saw his eyes get distant.
Soft.
When I went to prison, she never stopped fighting for me. Hired lawyers we couldn't afford. Wrote letters to senators. Organized protests. She believed in me when the whole world thought I was a murderer. She sounds incredible. She was. Marcus picked up the jewelry box. Ran his fingers over the carving. I made this for her. Before she got sick. Never finished it. Why not? Because she died before I could give it to her. And after, I couldn't look at it. Couldn't touch it. What changed? Marcus looked at Grace. Really looked at her. You, he said simply. You changed something. The air between them felt charged. Heavy. Marcus sighed. A crash from outside made them both jump. Marcus was on his feet instantly. Stay here. What was that? I don't know. Lock the door behind me. Marcus grabbed something from a drawer. Grace saw a flash of metal. A gun. Marcus. Lock
the door. He went outside.
Grace's heart pounded. She locked the workshop door, pressed her ear against it. She heard voices. Male voices.
Angry.
Then Marcus's voice.
Come.
Steady. You need to leave. We're looking for someone. Grace's blood ran cold. That voice. She knew that voice. David. Grace's hands shook as she unlocked the door, stepped outside. Marcus turned. Grace, get back inside. But it was too late. David stood in the driveway.
2 men with him.
Security guards, by the look of them. There you are, David said. His voice was smooth, like silk, like poison. I've been looking everywhere for you. Get off my property, Marcus said. The gun was visible now, not pointed at anyone.
But there.
One of the security guards moved. Marcus shifted. The gun rose slightly. Nobody needs to do anything stupid, David said calmly. I just want to talk to my wife. Ex-wife, Grace said. Her voice shook but held. We're divorced. You made sure of that. David smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Grace, sweetheart, you're confused. The stress has been hard on you. Why don't you come home? We can get you some help. I don't need help. You're living with a convicted felon, David said. Did he tell you that? Did he tell you he's a murderer? Marcus's jaw tightened. It was self-defense, Grace said. And it was overturned. David's smile widened. You've been doing research.
Good.
Then you also know he spent 3 years in prison. 3 years with real criminals. Learning God knows what. Get to the point, Marcus growled. The point, David said, turning his attention to Marcus, is that you're harboring a fugitive. My wife stole $20,000. There's a warrant out for her arrest. If you don't hand her over, you're an accessory. There's no warrant, Grace said. You're lying. Am I? David pulled out his phone, showed her the screen. Filed 3 hours ago. I'm sorry, Grace. I tried to protect you, but the evidence is overwhelming. Grace's knees felt weak. I didn't take that money. Then where did it go? David's voice was so reasonable, so rational. It was in our joint account. Then it was transferred to an account with your name on it. I don't have an account. Cayman Islands, David interrupted. Offshore banking. Very sophisticated. I'm impressed, honestly. I didn't think you had it in you. Grace stared at him. At this man she'd spent 23 years with. And she finally saw him. Really saw him. The mask was off. The charm was gone. This was who he really was. A monster. You set me up, she whispered. I protected my assets, David corrected. You wanted to take half of everything I'd built. I simply made sure that wouldn't happen. You have another family, Grace said. A woman in Vermont. 2 kids. David's expression flickered. Just for a second. I see you've been busy, he said. His voice had an edge now. Doesn't matter. That's not illegal. Fraud is, Grace said. Forgery is. Creating shell companies to hide assets is. Now David's mask cracked completely. You stupid bitch, he hissed. You think you can threaten me? I'm a lawyer. I have connections. Money. Power. What do you have? Nothing. You're nothing. Marcus moved so fast Grace barely saw it. 1 second, he was standing next to her. The next, he had David pushed against the car. The gun pressed under David's chin. Say that again, Marcus said quietly. Call her nothing again. I dare you. The security guards moved forward. Don't, Grace said. Her voice rang out clear. Strong. Your boss came onto private property. Threatened me. Threatened him. If Marcus shoots him, it's self-defense.
Just like last time.
And this time, there are witnesses. The guard stopped. David's eyes were wide.
Scared.
For the first time, Grace saw fear in his face. You're making a mistake, David gasped. No, Marcus said. You made the mistake. You came here, to my home, threatened someone under my protection. He pressed the gun harder. David whimpered. Here's what's going to happen, Marcus continued. You're going to leave. You're going to drop the charges. And you're going to stay the hell away from Grace. Or what? Or every piece of evidence we have about your fraud, your forgery, your second family, it all goes to the state bar. The IRS. Every news station in the state. Marcus leaned in close, whispered something in David's ear that Grace couldn't hear. David's face went white. Marcus stepped back, lowered the gun. Get out, he said. David stumbled to the car. The security guards helped him. This isn't over, David called out as they drove away. Yeah, Marcus said. It is. Who else is cheering right now? Type yes if you loved that. Grace stood in the driveway long after David's car disappeared. Her whole body was shaking. Adrenaline, fear, relief. Grace? Marcus's voice was soft. You okay? She turned to him. And then she did something she didn't plan, didn't think about. She kissed him. It was brief, gentle, just oppressive lips. But it was real. Marcus pulled back, looked at her with wide eyes. I'm sorry, Grace said quickly. I shouldn't have. Don't apologize, Marcus said. His voice was rough. Just, are you sure? Because Grace, I'm not. I can't be a rebound. I can't be something you turn to because you're scared or grateful, or... You're not, Grace interrupted. Marcus, you're not a rebound. You're not a replacement. You're... She struggled to find the words. You're the first person in years who's made me feel like a person, she finally said. Not a wife. Not a mother. Not a possession. Just me. Marcus cupped her face. His thumb traced her cheekbone. I'm broken, he said. My past is dark. Complicated. I wake up some nights, and I can't breathe because I see that man's face. The one I killed. I see Claire dying in that hospital bed. I see the prison walls. I don't care. You should. I don't, Grace repeated firmly. Marcus, you saved me. Not just from the streets. Not just from David. You saved me from disappearing. From becoming nothing. Marcus's eyes were wet. You were never nothing. But I believed I was. Until you. They stood there, foreheads touching, breathing the same air. What did you say to him? Grace asked. To David. At the end. Marcus smiled. It was a dark smile. A dangerous smile. I told him I know where his other family lives. I know his kid's school. His girlfriend's work. And if he ever comes near you again, I'll make sure they know exactly who he is. Grace should have been shocked. Should have been horrified. Instead, she felt protected. Safe. For the first time in her adult life. What happens now? She asked. Now we finish this, Marcus said. We take everything Diana found. We go to the authorities. We destroy him legally. Completely. And then, Marcus looked at her. And then we figure out what this is. Between us. If you want to. Grace smiled. A real smile. I want to. They went inside. Made tea. Sat in comfortable silence. Outside, the night was dark. But inside, something was healing. Something was beginning. The next 2 weeks were a blur. Diana worked around the clock. Compiled evidence. Built an airtight case. Grace gave statements. Signed affidavits. Relived every moment of her marriage. It was painful.
Exhausting.
But necessary. Marcus was there through all of it. Holding her hand during the hard parts. Making her laugh during the breaks. They'd become something. Not quite a couple. Not quite friends. Something in between. Something deeper. At night, they'd sit on the porch. Talk about everything and nothing. Marcus told her about his childhood. The abuse. The fear. How he'd learned to survive by making himself invisible. Grace told him about her dreams. The paintings she'd wanted to create. The life she'd imagined before David convinced her to put it all aside. You could still paint, Marcus said one night. I haven't in 20 years. So? Start now. The next day, Marcus brought home art supplies. Canvases. Brushes. Paints. Grace stared at them. Marcus, you can't afford. Already done. Grace looked at him. This man who barely knew her, but who kept giving, kept believing. "Thank you," she whispered. She started painting that afternoon. Small things at first. A bird, a tree, the garden outside. But with each brushstroke, something inside her uncurled, came back to life. Marcus would watch her sometimes. From the doorway. Never interrupting. Just watching. "What?" Grace asked one day, catching him. "You're beautiful when you create," he said simply. Then he went back to his workshop. Grace's hand trembled. Her heart raced. She was falling for him. She knew it, and it terrified her. The hearing was set for a Thursday morning. David had hired 3 lawyers. The best money could buy. Grace had Diana. And the truth. They walked into the courthouse together. Grace, Marcus, and Diana. David was already there. With his legal team. His perfect suit. His perfect hair. His perfect lies. He looked at Grace. Then at Marcus. His jaw tightened. "All rise." The judge entered. A woman. Late 60s. Sharp eyes that missed nothing. "This is a preliminary hearing," she said. "Regarding charges of theft filed against Grace Morrison by David Morrison. Are both parties present?" "Yes, Your Honor," David's lawyer said. "Yes, Your Honor," Diana said. "Mr. Morrison, you're claiming your ex-wife stole $20,000 from a joint account." "Yes, Your Honor. We have evidence." "I've reviewed your evidence," the judge interrupted. "I've also reviewed evidence submitted by Ms. Morrison's attorney. And I have some questions." David's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Morrison," the judge continued, "can you explain why there are multiple wire transfers from this joint account to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands? Transfers that predate the alleged theft by 6 months. Those were legitimate business transactions, Your Honor." "Business transactions that your wife's name was forged on?" Silence. The judge looked at Diana. "Counselor, you have documentation of this forgery?" "Yes, Your Honor. Multiple examples. Verified by 3 separate handwriting experts." The judge reviewed the documents. Her expression darkened. "Mr. Morrison, I'm also seeing evidence of 3 shell corporations registered in your name. Corporations that hold significant assets. Assets that were not disclosed during your divorce proceedings." David's face went red. "Your Honor, those are private business matters." "Private." The judge's voice was ice. "Mr. Morrison, you accused your ex-wife of theft while actively hiding millions of dollars in assets. Assets that should have been split during the divorce." "Your Honor, I can explain." "I'm sure you can." In front of a grand jury. The judge looked at the prosecutor. "I want a full investigation."
Fraud. Forgery. Perjury.
"And while we're at it, let's look into bigamy charges." David's face went from red to white. "What? Did you think we wouldn't find out?" the judge asked. "About your second family? The house in Vermont? The children?" David's lawyer was whispering frantically in his ear. "Your Honor," the lawyer said, "my client would like to request a continuance." Denied. The judge turned to Grace. "Ms. Morrison, the charges against you are dismissed. With prejudice. Which means they cannot be filed again." Grace felt tears streaming down her face. Furthermore, the judge continued, "I'm issuing a restraining order. Mr. Morrison is not to contact you. Not to come within 500 feet of you. Any violation will result in immediate arrest." The gavel came down. "We're adjourned." Outside the courthouse, Grace collapsed into Marcus's arms. She was sobbing, but not from sadness. From relief. From joy. From the weight of 23 years finally lifting off her shoulders. "It's over," Marcus whispered. "It's finally over." Diana approached them. She was smiling. Actually smiling. "The DA is moving forward," she said. "With all charges. David's looking at 5 to 10 years. Maybe more if they find everything I think they're going to find." "What about his law license?" Grace asked.
"Gone."
"The state bar is already starting disbarment proceedings." Grace looked back at the courthouse. Saw David being led out by his lawyers. He looked small. Defeated. He saw her watching. And for just a second, their eyes met. Grace felt nothing. No anger. No satisfaction. Nothing. He was just a man. A pathetic, broken man who'd tried to destroy her and failed. She turned away. Walked to Marcus's truck with her head held high. That evening, there was a knock on the door. Marcus answered it. Then turned to Grace with a strange expression. "Someone's here to see you." Grace walked to the door and froze.
Sarah.
Her daughter, standing on the porch. "Mom." Sarah's voice was small, broken. Grace couldn't speak, couldn't move. Sarah's eyes were red, like she'd been crying for hours. "I'm so sorry," Sarah whispered. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Dad told us you were sick, that you were dangerous. And I believed him. I'm so sorry." Grace stepped onto the porch, looked at her daughter. This child she'd raised, protected,
Loved.
"He lied to us," Sarah continued. Her voice cracked. "About everything. The money. The other woman. Everything. And we abandoned you." "Sarah?"
No, Mom. Please.
"Let me say this." Sarah was crying now, full tears. "I should have known. I should have questioned him. You're my mother. And I chose him over you. I'll never forgive myself for that." Grace pulled Sarah into her arms, held her tight. "It's okay," Grace whispered. "It's not okay. But it will be." Grace pulled back, looked at her daughter's face. "Sarah, your father is very good at manipulating people. You were just a kid when he started. You didn't stand a chance. I'm not a kid anymore. I should have known better. You know now. That's what matters." They stood there, mother and daughter, broken pieces, starting to mend. Is he going to jail?" Sarah asked. "Probably." Sarah nodded slowly. "Good." Marcus appeared with tea, set it down quietly, started to leave. "Wait," Grace said. She reached for his hand. "Sarah, this is Marcus. He saved me." Sarah looked at Marcus, then at their joined hands. Something shifted in her expression. Understanding. "Thank you," she said to Marcus, "for taking care of my mom when I didn't." Marcus nodded. "She didn't need much taking care of. She's stronger than you know." Sarah smiled through her tears. "I'm starting to see that." They talked for hours. Sarah told Grace everything. About how David had poisoned them against her. About the lies. The manipulation. "Your brother wants to see you too," Sarah said. He's having a harder time processing all of this." "I understand," Grace said. "When he's ready, I'll be here." As Sarah was leaving, she turned back. "Mom, are you happy?" Grace looked at Marcus. At this house that had become a home. At the paintings drying in the corner. At the life she was building from nothing. "I'm getting there," she said. "For the first time in a long time, I'm getting there." Is anyone else sobbing right now? Type family if you believe healing is possible. Winter came. Snow covered Marcus's garden. Made everything clean.
White. New.
Grace had been living with Marcus for 3 months now. She'd offered to find her own place. Marcus had told her she was being ridiculous. "You're not a burden," he'd said. You're part of this now." Part of what, he didn't say. But Grace understood. She was painting every day now. Big canvases. Bold colors. Years of suppressed creativity pouring out. Marcus had cleared out a room for her. Made it into a studio. Built her an easel. "You're going to be famous," he'd said. "I'm 52 years old," Grace laughed. "Nobody becomes a famous artist at 52. Says who?" Grace kissed him. They did that now. Kissed. Held hands. Fell asleep on the couch together watching old movies. They hadn't gone further than that. Both of them were too broken. Too careful. But it was enough. For now, it was enough. David's trial was set for spring. Diana was confident he'd plead guilty. The evidence was overwhelming. His other family had left him. His law license was gone. His reputation destroyed. Grace should have felt satisfaction. Instead, she felt nothing. Like he was a chapter that was closed.
Done.
Over. She was focused on the future now. Sarah visited twice a week. Sometimes brought Grace's son, Tyler. The reconciliation with Tyler was slower, harder, but it was happening. "I wasted so much time hating you," Tyler said one evening, "for something you didn't even do." "You didn't hate me," Grace said gently. "You were confused, manipulated. I should have known better. Stop beating yourself up. Your father was very good at what he did." Tyler looked at Marcus. "He treating you right?" Grace smiled. "Better than right." "Good." Tyler's voice hardened. "Because if he hurts you—" "He won't," Grace said firmly. "He's not your father." One evening, Marcus found Grace in her studio. She was working on something new, a painting of a bird. But this bird was different. It wasn't trapped. It was flying.
Free.
"That's beautiful," Marcus said. Grace turned, smiled. "It's for you. For me. For everything you've done. Everything you are." Marcus looked at the painting, and Grace saw his eyes get wet. "Claire would have liked you," he said quietly. "Tell me more about her." Marcus sat down. And he did. He told Grace stories. About Claire's laugh. Her terrible cooking. The way she sang off-key in the shower. "She told me something," Marcus said, "right before she died."
"What?"
She said, "Don't stay in the dark forever. Promise me you'll find light again." Grace's throat tightened. "I didn't understand what she meant," Marcus continued. "Not until you showed up at my door, running from those men, broken and scared and still fighting." He looked at Grace. "You're my light," he said simply. "You brought me back to life." Grace crossed the room, sat on his lap, wrapped her arms around his neck. "You did the same for me," she whispered. They kissed. Deeper this time. More urgent. Marcus pulled back. "Grace, if we do this, I need you to be sure." "I'm sure. Because I can't lose someone again. It almost destroyed me the first time." Grace cupped his face. "I'm not going anywhere. Marcus, I love you." The words hung in the air. She'd said it. Finally said it. Marcus's eyes were wide, vulnerable. "Say that again," he whispered. "I love you." "I love you too," Marcus said. His voice broke. "God help me, I love you too." Spring came. Marcus's garden came back to life. Grace helped him plant new flowers, vegetables, herbs. They worked side by side, hands dirty, hearts full. David pleaded guilty, took a plea deal. 7 years. Out in 5 with good behavior. His second family had disappeared. His first family wanted nothing to do with him. He'd lost everything, just like he'd tried to make Grace lose everything. Grace felt no satisfaction, no triumph, just relief that it was over. She was focused on building her new life now. She'd started selling her paintings, small galleries at first, local art shows. But people responded. Her work was raw, honest, painful and beautiful at the same time. "You're a natural," Diana said at Grace's first show. "I knew you had it in you." Grace smiled. "I had good people believing in me." She looked at Marcus. He was standing across the room, watching her with pride in his eyes. Sarah and Tyler were there too. They'd come to support her, to celebrate her. Her family was broken, but it was rebuilding, slowly, carefully. That night, after everyone left, Marcus took Grace to the garden. "I want to show you something," he said. He led her to a section she hadn't seen him working on. A small clearing, with a bench, and a tree. "I planted this today," Marcus said. "A cherry tree. Claire's favorite." Grace looked at him, confused. "I've been holding on to her," Marcus continued. "Her memory, her ghost, keeping her alive by staying frozen." He took Grace's hand. "But she's gone, and I'm still here, and I want to live again. Really live, not just survive." Tears streamed down Grace's face. "Grace Morrison," Marcus said. He got down on one knee. Grace's hands flew to her mouth. "I don't have a ring," Marcus said. "I don't have much of anything. But I have love. And I have hope. And I have you." He pulled out a small carved box. The jewelry box he'd been working on. For Claire. But finished now. I finished it, he said. Because I realized something. Love doesn't end. It transforms.
Claire loved me.
And she'd want me to be happy. To love again. He opened the box. Inside was a simple wooden ring. Carved from cherry wood. I made this for you, Marcus said. It's not fancy. It's not expensive. But it's made with every ounce of love I have. Marcus. Will you marry me? He asked. Will you build a life with me? A real life? With all the mess and beauty and pain and joy that comes with it. Grace dropped to her knees, took his face in her hands. Yes, she said. Yes, yes, yes. They kissed in the moonlight, in the garden, surrounded by new life growing from old soil. Two broken people, finding wholeness in each other. 1 year later, Grace stood in an art gallery. Her art gallery. She'd opened it 6 months ago. Small.
Cozy.
Featuring local artists who'd been overlooked. Forgotten. Like she'd been. The space was full. People admiring paintings. Sculptures. Photographs. Marcus stood beside her.
Her husband now.
They'd gotten married in the garden.
Small ceremony.
Just Sarah, Tyler, Diana, and a few close friends. It was perfect. You did it, Marcus whispered. You built something beautiful. We did it, Grace corrected. None of this happens without you. Marcus kissed her temple. I think you would have found your way eventually. Maybe. But it wouldn't have been as good. Sarah approached with Tyler. Both of them smiling. Mom, there's someone who wants to meet you, Sarah said. A young woman stepped forward. Maybe 25. Shy smile. Ms. Morrison? I'm Kate. I saw your paintings online. They helped me. Helped you how? Grace asked. I was in a bad relationship, Kate said quietly. Like really bad. Your paintings, the way you show pain turning into strength, it gave me courage to leave. Grace's eyes filled with tears. You left. 3 months ago. I'm staying with my sister. Starting over. Grace pulled Kate into a hug. You're so brave. So are you, Kate whispered. After Kate left, Marcus pulled Grace outside. To the alley behind the gallery. I have something for you, he said. Marcus, you already gave me? He handed her a newspaper. Folded to the obituary section. Grace looked at it. Confused. Then she saw the name. David Morrison. Dead at 57. Heart attack. Grace stared at the words. Felt nothing. I thought you should know, Marcus said. In case. I don't know. In case you needed closure. Grace folded the newspaper. Handed it back. I don't need closure, she said. Because I already moved on. A long time ago. She looked at Marcus. At this man who'd saved her. Who she'd saved in return. I'm happy, she said. For the first time in my entire adult life, I'm genuinely happy. Marcus smiled. Good. They walked back inside. To the gallery. To the life they'd built together. Grace looked around. At the art on the walls. At the people filling the space. At Sarah and Tyler laughing together. She thought about where she'd been a year ago. Under an overpass. Broken. Alone. Believing she was nothing. And she thought about where she was now. An artist. A gallery owner. A wife. A mother rebuilding relationships with her kids. Someone who mattered. Sometimes the worst thing that can happen to you is actually the beginning of the best thing. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find what you really need. Grace had lost her old life. Her marriage. Her home. Her identity. But in losing everything, she found herself. And she found love. Real love. The kind built on mutual respect.
Healing. Partnership.
Not the kind that takes, but the kind that gives. Marcus had lost everything too. His freedom. His wife. His hope. But in saving Grace, he saved himself. 2 broken people. 2 shattered lives. Finding wholeness in each other. 3 months later, Grace got a letter. From David's lawyer. Even in death, he was trying to control her. But this letter was different. It was an apology. Written 2 weeks before David died.
Sealed.
With instructions to deliver it to Grace only after his death. Grace stared at it for a long time. Then she opened it. Grace, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I destroyed you. I destroyed our family. I destroyed myself. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. And I was too broken to see it.
Too narcissistic.
Too cruel. I told myself I was protecting what was mine. But the truth is, I was just afraid. Afraid that if you became strong, you wouldn't need me anymore. So I made you weak. I made you dependent. I made you invisible. And when you still found the strength to survive without me, I tried to destroy you completely. I was wrong. About everything. I hope you found happiness. Real happiness. The kind I could never give you. You deserved better. You always deserved better.
I'm sorry.
David. Grace read the letter 3 times. Then she did something unexpected. She forgave him. Not because he deserved it, but because holding on to anger was like drinking poison and expecting him to die. She'd been poisoned enough. By him. By her own pain. It was time to let it all go. Grace walked to the fireplace. Marcus watched her. She held the letter over the flames. Let it catch fire. Watched it burn.
Done.
Marcus asked. Done, Grace said. She turned to him. Smiled. Let's go plant something new in the garden. They walked outside together. Hand in hand. Into the sunshine. Into the future. Into the life they'd built from nothing. And that's where we leave them. 2 survivors. 2 fighters. 2 people who refused to let their past define their future. Grace learned that losing everything wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Marcus learned that loving again wasn't betraying the past. It was honoring it. Together, they learned that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to grow anyway. Sometimes the person who saves you isn't a hero. They're just someone broken like you. Someone who understands. Someone who stays. And sometimes the strongest love story isn't about falling. It's about rising. Together. This is Grace's story. But maybe it's your story too. Maybe you've been thrown away. Discarded. Made to feel like nothing. Maybe you're under your own overpass right now. Wondering if you'll ever feel human again. Here's what I want you to know. You will. It won't be easy. It won't be quick. But you will survive. You will rebuild. You will rise. And someday, you'll help someone else do the same. Because that's what survivors do. We don't just survive. We transform. We grow. We become living proof that rock bottom isn't the end. It's the foundation. So if you're there right now, in your darkest moment, hold on. Your Marcus is coming. Or maybe you're the Marcus. For someone else. Either way, the story isn't over. It's just beginning. Type I survived if this story touched your heart. Share it with someone who needs to hear this today.
The end.